Everyone. Welcome to Noise in the Void Interviews in Art. My name is Emily, and I'm here today with Linda Ambrose. Linda is a retired professor, an award winning historian, and a grandmother of 8 amazing children. When she's not writing, she likes to knit all kinds of things. She lives in Sudbury with her husband Robert and their 2 cats, Mufasa and Ginger. Welcome to the program. How are you doing today?
Thanks so much, Emily, for having me. I'm doing great. Yeah,
Oh, that's fantastic. Do you have your newest book to read for us?
I do. My book is called How My House Felt, written by me, illustrated by my granddaughter, Ava Hazel Jean Harper.
I love that.
I grew up in a little house with a big family. Me, my mom and dad, my 2 brothers, my 2 sisters, my Aunt Kay, and sometimes my Grandpa Foster, too. When I was 5 years old, my baby sister joined our family. There were a lot of people, and I felt much too crowded. Filled with so many people, I'm pretty sure my house felt just like me, small and cramped. Sometimes my little house felt way too cold. In the winter, our only heat came from wood stoves, and during the night, the fire sometimes went out. So on really frosty mornings, I woke up to find the stoves were full of dusty ashes and the water pipes were frozen. It was so cold, I could see my breath, even in the bedroom. Shivering on those frigid winter mornings, I'm pretty sure my house felt just like me, cold and grouchy. My mom was always the first one up in the morning, and once she got the fire going, everything and everyone started to feel better. She'd make nice warm porridge and put lots and lots of brown sugar on it. With a roaring fire and warm oatmeal bubbling on the stove, I'm sure my house felt just like me, warm and cozy. My house didn't always feel warm and cozy, though, not even in the summertime. Sometimes, the night after a really hot summer day, big thunder and lightning storms happened, and my house would shake with the crashes so loud it sounded like explosions in the sky. I felt really scared. And my mom would make us get out of bed, put on our shoes, sit on the couch until the storm was over. She said that lightning might make the house catch on fire and we would need to run outside really fast to escape. Yikes! That never happened, thank goodness, but I still didn't like thunderstorms very much. On stormy nights, I'm pretty sure my house felt just like me, worried and anxious. The best days of all at my house were baking days. On those days, I came home after school to find delicious smells filling the whole house. The table was covered with hot bread straight out of the oven. Oh, I can still smell it. I would gobble up a thick slice of warm bread, dripping with butter, lick my fingers, and ask for more. On baking days, with lots of delicious hot bread to eat, I'm pretty sure my house felt just like me, happy and satisfied. We had such tasty food at our house that the neighbors and the relatives, everybody liked to come over and eat it too. But after we invited them and before they arrived, there was always so much work to do. The cleaning, sweeping, cooking, moving tables and chairs. It took ages. The preparations always seemed to happen at the very last minute, and getting ready made all the grown-ups cranky, especially if I got in the way. When company was about to arrive, I'm pretty sure my house felt just like me, edgy and overwhelmed. But after everybody got there, there'd be so many aunties and uncles and cousins and friends that I wasn't sure they would all fit inside. Somehow they all piled in and everybody found a place to sit and eat. And I felt really small, but the house just seemed to get bigger and bigger so everybody could fit. There was this great big table Well, a big table for the grown-ups and a kid table for the kids, and no room to walk. When those family gatherings were underway, I'm pretty sure my house felt just like me, crowded but cheerful. After supper, everybody played cards and they all talked at once, and there was laughing and music and lots of stories and even more eating. Grown-ups at parties can be so loud. When my dad's sisters and brothers all came back home to this place where they'd grown up, they seemed really happy to see each other. And at those family reunions, I'm sure my house felt just like me, jolly and sentimental. One time, though, lots of friends and relations came to my house, but it was not a happy time. Not at all. In fact, it was one of the saddest days of my life. People cried and they said lots of nice things about my dad, and everybody ate fancy little sandwiches with pickles and said they were very sorry for our loss. But after they left, my dad's chair was empty. After saying last goodbyes, I'm pretty sure my house felt just like me, gloomy and heartbroken.
Okay, that was absolutely beautiful. Two
Thank
things, those illustrations are the definition of whimsical.
Right?
I oh, so it encapsulates exactly what the words are describing.
And
And I'm also learning that there is no age to be being read to. I love that so much.
great. Well, when I've talked about this book to other people and they say, well, what age are you pitching it to? So I reply, well, yeah, it's a kid's book, but I'm maybe this is, reaching far, but I would like to think that this book is like Robert Munch's classic, Love You Forever. People read it to kids, but the grown-ups cry. And so I hope that no matter what age the reader is, that they'll find this book moving.
Well, it seems like the perfect shareable book because, and that was something I noticed right away was that it's because the narrator is reflecting, you have an appeal to the parent who's reading, but then you have an appeal to the child who is maybe going through one of those scenarios and doesn't quite know how to describe it.
Yeah, that's right. And, I've shared this book with lots of my grandmother friends, and they report that very thing. Like they start reading it to their grandchildren or encourage their grown up children to read it to the kids, and everybody gets involved. And then, the book ends, but then the readers start sharing, well, where I grew up, it was like this. And so it prompts people to speak about their own growing up years. And one of the purposes that Ava and I had when we created this book was that it's exactly what you said. We wanted to give readers, especially kids, words for what they are feeling, expand the vocabulary, not just for academic purposes, but to be able to actually express this is what I'm feeling, and this is happening to me now in real time. The book does go back and forth between some difficult, like the scary thunderstorm page, the grief page where a parent has died. And that happened to me. I was a young adult, but it happened to Ava, and she was a child. And so the way that families move through their grief is complicated. It's complicated for grown-ups, it's complicated for kids, but we really hope that our book, the illustrations and the words, will give people ways of just knowing that although everybody grieves differently or celebrates differently, there's something human about this that we share. And when we can find words for what it is we're going through, and art, images that capture, yeah, that's exactly, the whole house just felt like it was crying on the inside. Then I think it's really, really helpful in lots of ways, not just therapeutic ways, but yeah, therapeutic ways too.
Well, from a writerly perspective, you could take an image and the words and you could put that on a poster and it would work well as a standalone. But it's very obvious there's a narrative, there's a beginning, middle, and end. Was
Yeah.
that intentional or did that come naturally as you were going through it?
Well, you know what? It was intentional, and then we worked at making the idea of it come to life on the pages. I am a grandmother. I recently retired. I'm in a phase of my life right now where I'm feeling reflective about a lot of things. Like, okay, that big career, what did all that mean? Family life is wonderful and happy and sad and complicated and reflecting on things that our family has been through. We're not the only ones, right? Other people and other families go through various things. And also, my husband and I are at a stage of life where we have just lost, months ago now, our last parent. And so it's a passing of the generational torch, right? Like we're the old people now. But that part of that process of saying goodbye and closing the chapter also meant some very hard work, practical, physical hard work, cleaning out two family homes that had been very, my family stayed in the same place my whole life and my mother's whole life. And the same thing for my in laws. They had lived in that home for decades. So, people say, wow, if walls could talk, yeah, what would they say? And it was sort of on that premise that this house has been through a lot of stages. And families, evolve through stages too, from the exciting new baby is arriving to we get to the end, toward the end of the book, no spoilers, but the grandmother becomes too old to live by herself, and we have to arrange what are we doing with this property? We had to make a very difficult and emotional decision. Like we love this house, but it's not realistic to keep it. So there's a page in the book where the house is listed for sale, and the house is worried, like what's going to happen to me now, and who's going to move in. And so that sort of life stage and moving through some difficult things together as a family and extended family, we were all experiencing it together, and we were all experiencing it differently, right? Because I remember certain things as kid number 5 in that big family, and my older siblings don't remember it that way, but they had moved out, and so anyway, family life is a complex thing. And then toward the end of the book, we come to the present day. I am a grandmother myself now. I don't live in a little house. I live in a big house. And my house is hardly ever cold unless I want it to be. But nevertheless, my house has felt a lot of things, and lots of them I can't control. And we, even in this big happy house, we've had times of grief here as well. And we've had big gatherings that are loud and noisy and fun. And we've had stress, and we're just like every other family. A lot goes on. And some of it is wonderful, and some of it is hard. And so our book tries to capture that and just grab the images. So by the end of the book, as a grandmother, I'm reminiscing, and you see a repeat of some of the previous illustrations, but now they're in a thought bubble. And it's me recalling my childhood gatherings when I felt like the tiny little kid that was in the way. Now I'm the host, and I've got all kinds of kids and relatives passing through my door. So like I said, I, as an author, as a writer, I'm at that sort of reflective stage, and I've kind of come to the end of my academic writing career, and now I'm opening a new door for myself into creative writing. And so this is my debut.
Well, one of the things you said, and it's so simple but so funny, was that like the little kid is complaining about how loud the adults are when they all get together, and it's now I'm the loud adult.
Yeah.
I remember when my son was like 5 or 6, and he'd want to just go hide in his room when there was too many people over because Yeah,
Yeah.
you get trampled when you're little.
But in defense of loud adults, I will say this, there was a lot of joy. And especially when my aunts and uncles would come back to the home place, right? The big reunion that my dad had with his siblings was a pretty happy thing. And I understand that now when my adult kids come back and the house is full of the grandkids and cousins. And grown-ups aren't the only loud ones. I'll just say that in our defense too.
Love there's this YouTuber I love named Savvy Writes Books, and she was speaking a few months ago about people just try to slap words together and put out there and call it a children's book, and
Yeah.
don't take into account that they need a children's book still needs to be good.
Oh,
And one thing that you've done is you've made sure that the children are being heard, but they're also not, you're recognizing that they're human and not one note. Was that important to you? Was that something you did consciously or realized afterwards, like, I did do that?
no, you know what? There's a lot of there was the book came out of me. It flowed out, and then I went to work on it. And it's not a simple thing to write a children's book. There are fewer words than my big academic history books that I wrote, but every word counts in a really important way. And there's an economy of words in a kid's book. So this book went through more than a year of editing and writing retreats and writing coaches having a look at it. And then it's self-published with Friesen Press. But part of what Friesen Press supplied to me was editorial service. So it went through 2 readings with editors. So yeah, the words I put down are not the words, not all of them made the cut. Also, something I worked really hard at with this book, and it's new to me, was writing, getting the point of view and the voice right, getting it correct. Because when I first wrote the draft of the book, it was we, because I have lots of siblings. We grew up in a little house, and there were a lot of us. And one writing coach said to me, "You can't presume to speak for your siblings." And he was absolutely right. And I knew that from lived experience when our parents had died and we started to share stories. Somebody would say, "What? I don't remember that. That never happened. What are you talking about?" And then we started to joke with one another. Well, of course it happened. Like, are you adopted or were you here? Like, so the point is that every child in a family system grows up in a different family, right? Because you arrive at a point where the parents are different stage of their parenting experience journey. That's one thing. And also, the way that a teenager remembers what happened is very different than the preschooler. I was the little tiny one near the end of the line there, and this is what I felt. This is what I saw from my little short, tiny person vantage point. And that's not at all how it felt to my older siblings who were in their late teens. So that's just the truth, that there are many things going on in a family situation. If you can freeze frame a family scene, every person in that scene is experiencing this differently, together, but differently. And the feelings that they are having are probably different too. It's about developmental stage, it's about state of mind, all kinds of things. So I worked hard at the words in this book to get them to express what I wanted to say. And then because I am an academic, it's a stretch for me to actually put myself in the center of a story and give myself permission to speak in first person. That's not how academic historians speak, right? They try to speak with the big voice of objectivity and authority. And it was really, but it felt very freeing to write in first person as a child, as a young adult. There's a page in here where I called my mom every Sunday and talked to her on the phone. The way that Ava captured that is delightful to me because Ava didn't really know my mother. Ava was too young, and my mom was gone way too soon for Ava to really know her. But she captured the essence of this granny sitting in her rocking chair talking to me on the landline. I'm like, wow, Ava, you're from 2012. You know about landlines, but there's the cord on the wall. And yeah, she just really captured this spirit of my mom and the joy that my mom took in gardening and birds and her big family. And we shared that on telephone conversations, but I just described it to Ava, verbally, and she has this way of capturing, as you said, these whimsical illustrations of hers are actually quite lovely. I told her my mom, okay, she sort of looked like me, but her glasses were really big. It was the 80s. Her favorite color was pink. And this is what Ava came up with and I looked at it, thought, that's my mom. You got it. You captured her. So that's a gift, I think, for an artist to be able to get emotion on the page for us, and then for us to look at it and experience the intended emotion that the artist had in mind. So I'm very impressed. I'm not an artist. I'm not a visual artist, let's say. I am a knitting artist. I am a word artist, but I'm not a drawer or a painter. And what Ava has done here, I'm delighted. I'm really delighted with what she was able to bring to life.
I just don't know how you teared up every other image. Like, oh my, I can't believe my god or granddaughter did that.
I'm very proud of her. Yeah, for sure.
Well, speaking of your academic career, so I was looking at your other book, Pentecostal Preacher Woman,
Yeah.
and it really isn't that different in terms of theme if you really think about it, because the
Okay.
importance was the history of the house.
Yeah.
And one of the things you had said about Pentecostal Preacher Woman is everyone knew her as one thing. You wanted to show what she actually was like, and that's what you're doing with your house. The house, everyone from the outside sees it as a house. You wanted to show what it was to be there. So
Yeah.
I think your voice is being heard no matter what kind of writing you're doing.
That's a really interesting observation, Emily. Thank you for that, because I have not thought about it that way. I will say, with Pentecostal Preacher Woman, it was my last big, opus as an academic. And it won all kinds of prizes, and I'm proud of that. But the one thing that felt very brave in that book, the conclusion of Pentecostal Preacher Woman, I wrote in first person. And it was the first time in my academic career I had ever done that. And when I say I wrote in first person, I actually was moved by somebody who writes about the theory of biography. And this person said, well, every biography is kind of autobiography too. And I thought, no, it's not. And then I stopped and I thought, is it? Like, wait a minute, how could my work on this person, the Reverend Bernice Gerard, it's not about me. And then I thought, well, maybe it is about me. If you're going to be somebody's biographer, you're going to live with their story for years. That book was 15 years in the making. And to live that long with the ideas and the documents and the sources means you are in a relationship with that subject, even though Bernice Gerard was deceased before I ever started the project. And what it is that kept me going on that long biography journey was that I did find parts of her life that I thought, good for her. She stood up for this, or she, let them have it for that, or she, made her life and defied some other people's expectations. And I liked that about her. And I thought, oh, okay, maybe I have done a bit of that too. I really liked the part where she got into it with the patriarchy. And I thought, you go, Bernice. And I thought, okay, wait, I do have former colleagues who might say I did a bit of that myself. So there are parts of her life that really resonated with me. And then there are other parts where I'm like, no, I can't, like that. Her experience is not my experience. I'm not her, and I'm not trying to live vicariously through her. But biography does evoke, for the reader or the researcher and writer of it, it evokes these parallels that you find. And when you're intrigued by something in somebody's life, it makes you want to go deeper. So Bernice Gerard was known as a really very conservative, socially conservative, right wing, figure in Vancouver in the 1970s and 80s. And so people that didn't really know her, they stereotyped her, right? She was really easy to, talk about art. It was very easy to be satirical. And there were tons of political cartoons drawn about her because she was easy to caricature. But when I was reading through her autobiography and her personal papers, I thought, wait a minute. Behind that sort of battle axe, image that people see, there is a wounded person who, like, she's a fighter, she's a survivor. I don't want to minimize that. But even as a senior citizen, she spoke about the lasting effects of the sexual abuse that she had survived. And that was really sobering to me when she wrote, she was in her 60s, and she still had night terrors about her abuser. And I just thought, oh, that's just like disgusting and heartbreaking. And I felt an affinity for her. And I thought, wait, so everybody else just thinks she's an angry activist. And she was an angry activist. But behind the anger, I could see this sort of tender-hearted person who thought, terrible things happened to me as a child, and they never want any child or woman to experience what I did. And I believe, and I wrote and argued in that book, that abuse and her being a sexual abuse survivor really drove a lot of her activism. So that really was something nobody has said about. Lots of things have been said about her, but nobody had really said that before. And that caused me to reflect on, wow, you went through all that. You turned your own experiences to an activism where you hope to do good for others. And you stuck with that religion of yours, that tradition, all the way through your life. I admired that about her because I am a person of faith too, but I've never been monogamous to one denomination or tradition the way that she was through her whole life. And I wondered why. Like, why did you stay? Why did you keep in that, tradition? And I say at the end of that book, I would dearly love to bring her back. I need about a week to talk to her and just ask her some questions that I can't resolve in my own mind of what motivated her and why she did what she did. And what would she think about, if I could plunk her back down into 2026, I'd have to bring her up to date to a lot of developments that have happened since she passed away. But then I'd like to get her thinking about that with me, because I just found her to be a really good thinking partner. And again, that was me thinking with her, but she wasn't there. It was me in her archives. And I just found her provocative. And so that's what kept me writing about her. And then that's why I landed on a very personal note at the end of that book and said, wow, I've never done this before, but here we go. Like, social position is one thing, but for me to actually now talk in an academic book about my own faith journey or my interior world, that's like, that was way beyond my comfort zone. But it felt brave to do it, and I'm glad I did. And I've had a lot of good conversation from readers and reviewers about that brave thing I did as well.
Well, if I may make another observation, I just noticed another similarity between that book and your new book is you needed a level of empathy in order to write from her perspective and write a biography. And a good children's book has a lot of empathy in it because, again, you got to make it good for the child who's reading it, and you can't do that unless you can have a glimpse through their eyes.
Yeah, and you know what? I love children, and my life is full of lots of children. My, family members, but other children in my life as well. And I was just saying this to a friend at lunch this week. I love having conversations with children, like not getting them to say something cute and then sort of, talking about them in third person. Did you hear that? Oh, isn't that adorable? No, I mean, really engaging them and asking them what they think and how they feel and how they perceive things. Children can be wonderful conversationalists if you can get them to trust you with their what they really think, not just the pat answer of, how was your day at school? Fine. um, I like to play with a word game with children in that context. If I pick them up from school, it's like, hey, what was the funniest thing that happened today?
Oh, that's a
That's
good
that's
question.
not a yes or no answer, right? Unless they say nothing. I say, oh, come on, it was something funny. Or what was the hardest thing? What is there anything that made you feel frustrated today? So that sort of drive home from school pickup can take us to really interesting places.
Well, in your actual writing process, moving from something for adults to something for children, did you have to change your regular process of how you do write? And if so, how did that change?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as an academic historian, my process was just that, very academic, right? There's, you go to the archives, you find evidence, you build an argument, this wall behind me. The whole year I was writing that book on Bernice Gerard was covered with, paper and sticky notes, and I was moving ideas around the chapters, and I had a map of the book on the wall. When I wrote the children's book, I put it on the wall too, but I did it sort of page by page, image by image, and feeling by feeling. And at one point, there was one writing coach who spoke to me, was coaching me and giving me advice about this book. And when we got to the page about death, he was alarmed and he said, no, 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 don't go there. That's very dark. Like you really shouldn't do that in a children's book. And I said, oh, okay, I don't know if you're a parent or grandparent or not, but children think about death all the time. They do. And sometimes, their goldfish died, or their grandmother died, or, a parent died. Like they worry about these things. And when they have to process somebody that they've really loved, um, the loss of that is profound. And so I argued with that coach and said, no, no, this is central to experiences that have happened in my growing up family and now my own family with my grandchildren too. So we're not going to skirt around that. They said, okay, fair enough. If you want to go there, you can go there. But the advice they had for me was really solid. And they said, this book seems to have happy and sad, scared and freezing cold, grouchy and cheerful. And so it's a good idea if you go one by one, like, can we have a happy page, a hard page? Can we recover on the next page to something more lighthearted? Or so that was good advice about how to move the pages around and make the story flow in a way that was not just leading to a big downer, where the child is going to feel worse when they finish reading the book than they felt when they began. So that was really good advice, and I'm happy to have worked through that. Also, the story in the book moves, as I said before, the family is evolving through some pretty big stages, from being way too crowded with babies in the house and elderly grandparents and all, like a big melange of people. And then the house begins to empty out and people move on and go away to school and move out, and then finally, my mother lived alone and loved it. She liked her solitude and she loved that place. So it was a happy place for her. But that phone call page records too that sometimes she would say, well, Thank you for calling. Sometimes it's kind of lonesome around here. And lonesome is not a word she would have used at the beginning of this story. When we had to make a tough decision about what to do with the property, there's a lot of emotion on the part of all the siblings trying to agree on a plan and how to go forward. And again, Ava is just a child and was a child when all of that happened. But what shocked me was on the page where the house is listed for sale, Ava chopped the tree down. I didn't ask her to
Oh,
do that, but that is exactly what happened. The tree was going to be dangerous to the house. It had to get cut down, but oh, that tree was where my swing had been and our tree house, and like the tree was gone. So again, was that intuitive? I don't know how this kid knew to chop the tree down, but that's what happened in the picture when she first showed it to me, and I gasped and said, "Oh, yeah, the tree is gone, and that's awful." But
well, I one thing I've noticed with some kids who do art is you'll have someone who's gone to art school forever, and it's like this, you can use this to insert symbolism and use that, but there's some things that are just intuitive,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that tree is definitely one of them, and she has a great intuition.
she does, and she captured it like okay, something that was living is gone, and now this house is empty and it's sad and it's becoming dilapidated, and we have to make a decision. What are we doing? Um, yeah, so that really captured me. Like I knew that you and I were going to talk about art today, and I just thought there are different kinds of art, right? So there's the word art that I practice. That I am a textile artist too with my crafting of knitting and such. But the actual visual arts, like I'm so intrigued by the practice. And this is a kid. This is a young teenage artist who did the illustrations for my book. But I had the experience of being with her and her cousin. We took them to the National Gallery last summer just to walk through and say, hey, art, yeah, well, it comes in all kinds. Like, here we are for the day, go crazy, like, go explore. And it was absolutely enchanting to watch two, almost 13-year-olds, I guess they were, just encountering famous pieces of art, every genre, and they're like, I wasn't sure how it would go. Like, we're going to take two young teenagers to the National Gallery. Okay. Oh, wow. That sounds like a good time. But for them, it was a wonderful day. And they just couldn't get enough. And so it was partly about just consuming what other artists had done and what was happening with the color and the texture. And of course, the National Gallery has soundscapes and all kinds of wonderful experiences when you go through. But for them to identify, I love this piece. Oh yeah, what, like, why? What is it? Is it the color? Is it, So again, like that was really their first time in a formal big gallery. And it was a delight to experience that with them. When we started this book, as I said, Ava never really had been to this house. She was way too young. I showed her a picture of it and said, it's a funny little house with kind of this shape. And I want the house to express emotion. So she found on the internet a series of cartoon eyes, and the happy eyes, the scared eyes, the sad eyes, whatever. And then she knew, and she expressed this in an interview she and I did together. She said, yeah, I could, the windows were the eyes, and if it was happy, I'd make them big and full, and then when they were sad, I did things with the eyebrows and the mouth, and I just thought, wow, yeah, yes, you did. And she took that from this sort of compilation. It was like clip art, of like a happy face, sad face, like what are the eyes doing? What is the expression? So the fact that she could do that and translate that into this narrative blows me away. It was
Well,
The most fun collaboration I've ever done, and I've collaborated with other writers and scholars, but like, wow, this was her bringing something that I don't have. I guess the closest thing is in my academic career, I did some interdisciplinary work. I'm a historian. I teamed up with a sociologist, and we did a lot of projects together. And what that person brought and what I brought were really complementary. Um, and it's like that. I mean, it's a collaboration, but this is a whole other level of collaboration where she brings the text to life with these drawings of hers.
and made you relive it in a way that you didn't expect to relive it, it seems.
Yeah, like when she first showed me that grief page, I was like, oh my, like I did not instruct that it's just the inside of the house. And the eyes are very big and very sad. And that's the only page in the book where it's completely interior. And I'm thinking, yeah, grief is like that, isn't it? Right? It's something that's going on inside, um, and it's private a lot of the time. And so again, it was like, wow, good call, kid. Like that is exactly. We don't need the yard. We don't need the birds. We don't need all the extraneous stuff. It's just really focused in on the interior of this little kid's broken heart in the picture, and you nailed it. You just nailed it. Yeah.
Well, what advice would you give to someone who would want to do a similar project? Whether it's if you can find a link between your previous work and now that you think encompasses both, or you just want to focus on one, what do you think would help a newcomer?
Well, first of all, with both kinds of writing, academic writing and creative writing, you have to really love the subject. Don't choose to write about something that you think needs to be done or it should be done or like no. I think if it's something where you really feel an engagement, that's a great starting point. Yeah, so the children's book for me, as I said, it comes at a particular point in my life. I don't think I could have written this book 20 years ago because I didn't know what it was like to lose both my parents and have to participate in closing up the home place and doing real estate transaction. And I wasn't frontline. My older siblings did most of the work, the business work of that. But we all participate and walk through the house, bring the boxes, pack it up, close the door for the last time. And until I had gone through that, I don't think I could have written a book that goes as far as this book goes into here I am now as a grandmother. And what I know is happening is that memories are being created. Some of them I plan, and I hope that's what sticks, but I know that kids are going to remember things I never intended for them to remember. Like my mother would not appreciate that I'm revealing to the world how stressful the house was before people came over. It was terrible. Everybody was grumpy. It's probably a shared experience in lots of households, but
You had to clean, and it had to be like you had to clean stuff you didn't know could get dirty, like the baseboard.
yeah, and Auntie so and so is coming, and she's going to notice. And I'm like, really? Oh, okay. I mean, yes, I guess so. But so yeah, that part of the book, and especially because it comes full circle to I'm a grandmother now. And when all of my grandkids are here and it's noisy and loud and the grown-ups are playing cards and it gets louder and louder as the night goes on, um, I have a little thought bubble going on about this is great. This is loud and messy and it's great. This is what big families, if they're lucky, this is what big families can be like on their best days, right? Or in their best periods. Um, there's some emotions we didn't go there in the book. We didn't really go to anger. We could have. We didn't go to rejection. There's a lot of things that we didn't go there. But people have asked me, so where do you think this book is going to land? Like who? And I said, I really hope I could see like family therapists using it. to say, here's a book about a family, read it, see if anything like sort of resonates. And then Ava and I are going into some schools and we're going to read the book, and she's bringing art supplies and we're going to invite children. What does your home feel like? Go ahead, draw it.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because one of the first things I was thinking was, wouldn't it be great if there was a workbook with this?
Yeah.
That, pick one of the words and you draw it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or if you are trying to say what it feels like, but you don't have the words for it, the picture can take you quite far in expressing it. And then when you talk about it with a grown up, a parent or therapist or whoever, they can help you, to put words to it, right? So I could see the book being useful in that way. At a more surface level, I just hope teachers will use it and go, okay, let's expand our vocabulary, kids. Like, give me 5 other words that mean happy, or sad or whatever. And then I said to somebody else, oh, I would love to pitch this to real estate agents who they have a vendor. You have to sell your mother's house and you are fighting about it. You can't agree. You don't want to. And some of you just want the money and let's go. And some people are like, no, this is so special. That complicated stage of family life is something to be talked about as well. And the book might help some people go there. And say, well, gee, I was just happy to get rid of the place, and somebody else was like, no, I cried the day we signed the deal, So
and again, like you were saying before, in the same family, you can have both of those emotions.
Yeah. And sometimes in the same person, you can have a whole jumble of emotions too. I'm going to testify about that. But you're right. Like different siblings or family members are experiencing these things very differently. And so, yeah, I've been saying to people, like, tuck this in your Easter basket for your kids. Get your mom to read it to your kids and see what it sparks. I just would love to be at everybody's Easter table and, after they've read this maybe, and what does it make you think of? What was it like where you grew up? Was it great? Was it like not great? You were happy to get out of there? Like what? And because everybody grew up somewhere, right? And so everybody, it's just a good conversation starter, because everybody, if they're willing, there's something to talk about what it was like in your family and how it felt. So that's what we wanted to say to readers, young and old. Oh, your house, your family was complicated? Yeah, welcome to the club. That's kind of a human thing, that we all have these complicated family systems that we're part of.
Now, if you'll excuse the hard pivot, do you have any book recommendations that aren't your books?
Oh, lots. Yeah, I'm involved in a couple of book clubs. And in fact, I've just recommended a couple of books for next year's roster. So I've just finished enjoying the book, The Correspondent by Virginia Evans. And it is about a woman who's aging and she's losing her sight. But the entire book is just composed of letters. There's no narrator. There's just letters. She writes a letter, she gets a reply. She writes an email, somebody emails back. And so there are all these threads of her life that you're learning about as the book goes on. And through the book, she's writing this long letter that she never seems to finish. And you're not sure who it's to or what it's for, until you get to the end. But it's a 70-something, I would say, year-old woman who is coping with aging. And that book just really grabbed me. It's funny and it's poignant. And I've enjoyed that one a lot. Just also read the book called The Book Club for Troublesome Women. And it's set in
Sensing a theme.
it's set in 1960s suburbia. And in the book club, in the book, they're reading Betty Friedan, The Feminine Mystique, together. So they're experiencing this like really edgy book. And then all the members of the book club have these complicated lives that are sort of unraveling. And they are, yeah, it's that's a wonderful read as well. That's Marie Bostwick. In terms of kids' books, so we just read all over the map with kids' books, you know, and I've got shelves of kids' books through my house. So almost everybody among the grandkids, the youngest one's 6 now, so almost everybody's into chapter books and easy, you know, starting with Sophie Mouse and her adventures. And one thing we love doing is reading aloud to each other. So, you know, the other night, one of my youngest grandchildren read me a book. It wasn't a chapter book, but it was she read the whole book to me, and I said, "Wow, I think that's the first time you're the reader, I'm the listener for the whole book." And she was very proud of that milestone. So, yeah, reading's a big deal around here. So we take a lots of joy in that.
Well, people say literature is dying and books are dying, but
No,
we have lots of anecdotal proof that they're
no,
not. So I need.
no, not true, not true. And one thing I'm really loving is when you know, my sort of middle school grandkids will come in and say, "Gran, oh, I'm reading this amazing book. I think you'd really like it." "Oh yeah, what is it?" Well, it's the Chronicles of Narnia or something. Like they're reading classics still, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's an awesome book. I remember that." You know, the other night we were talking about something, and oh, we're just going around the table. Who was your favorite teacher and why? So my husband and I participated as well. And my favorite teacher was Mrs. Wellstead in grade 5. And because if we were very, very good, you know, at the end of the day, she'd let us put our heads on the desk and she read aloud to us Anne of Green Gables. Wow, I was transported. I had not encountered that book before, and just led to a lifelong love of Lucy Maud Montgomery for me. So pretty powerful, you know. And those, when kids are getting to those stages of like chapter books and there's not a lot of illustration, that's the magic, right? Because you're making the images in your mind. I knew what that Green Gables house was supposed to look like before I ever went to Prince Edward Island, you know. I knew what Matthew was supposed to look like before Megan follows, you know, and CBC and all that. So yeah, this just really magical to watch kids fall in love with literacy and, you know, just be transported off to another world in their own imaginations. So that excites me.
I agree with you 100%. And Linda, I want to thank you so much for being here with me today. This was amazing. Where can we find your book, and if do you have any social media?
Yeah, so locally for Sudbury folks, you can find the book at Books and Beans. You can find it at Bay Used Books because they sell new copies of local authors. Here's one. You can find it at my favorite yarn shop in Sudbury, which is Sweet Yarns, and that's in Minnow Lake on
Returns.
Bancroft. In fact, the yarn shop took the cover of the book and said, "Oh, okay, that yellow gold color." They created a sock knitting project to go with my book. So you can go to
I love
Sweet Yarns,
that.
grab some yarn, and make some house socks for yourself. Um, so those are the 3 local spots where you can find the book, but it's available everywhere. It's on online at Indigo, Amazon, Friesen Press. Yeah, pretty much everywhere you would buy a book online, that's where you can find it there as well. So I haven't got dedicated social media yet for How My House Felt. And by the way, there may be sequels to this book. Ooh,
Love it.
because we are talking about how my dog felt, and we are talking about how my school felt. So stay tuned. There's nothing formal yet, but my collaborator and I are brainstorming. Let's put it that way. So yeah, you'll find me on Facebook, just Linda Ambrose, and I'm on Instagram as well. So yeah, I would love to hear from your listeners, and especially if somebody wants to set something up, like teachers I am all ears for that, for an activity to come into your classroom. Or, you know, you tell me, what do you want to do? And we'll get together.
I That sounds wonderful, and local libraries too would be a great idea. So
Yeah.
there's so much opportunity for this book, and so many opportunities for kids to garner from it. Thank you everybody for listening. I hope you have a great day. You can listen to the video version of this on my YouTube channel, Garbage Words with Garbage Lady, or you can listen to the audio at CKLU 96.7 Sudbury on the radio or online. Thanks and bye bye.